First of all, good Moed, being today Shana Rabbah, Piskatava, and wish you all a very, very happy and healthy rest of the year. Today's learning is in memory of Shimon ben Yisrael, sponsored by Annette Bornstein, who sponsored the Day of Learning to commemorate the yahrzeit of her father, Shimon ben Yisrael. Also, today's Mishna will be dedicated in memory of Mishna Shapiro's father, Uri Chaim ben Moshe. The neshama should have an aliyah.
Amen.
Okay. We were learning Mishnah Ismail Cotton, Parak Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishnah Tes, Mishnah 9. So yesterday we were introduced to a type of expression of grief that took place at funerals. One was called ma'anos, which was a certain type of a chant, and matapchos is when they clap their hands in grief. And we learned about how on Chol Hamoed you can do that certain chant, but you can't clap your hands. That was the opinion that we followed. Now the previous Mishnah was Chol Hamoed. Today's Mishnah starts Barashei Chadashim v'Chanukah b'Purim. On Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, and Purim, which are also festivals, but they're not the same like Chol Hamoed because there's no restricted types of work there's no work that is restricted on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim as on Rosh Chodesh, and therefore the Mishnah discusses them separately. Now, at the same time, on these days there are no eulogies. We do not eulogize on these days, but the Mishnah says on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, and Purim, ma'anos u'metapchos. Okay, bazeh u'bazeh lo mekaynos. On Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, and Purim, they can do the Inui chant, which we'll soon explain what that is. They can clap their hands in grief. Bazeh bazeh, both on Chol Hamoed and these days just mentioned, Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, and Purim, lo mekaynos. They cannot do the chant Kol Hakina. And these things will be explained what they are exactly very soon. So on these days, there is more expressions of grief we may do than on Chol Hamoed, but this expression we have called kina, that not. Nikbar hames, once the person has been buried, there is no more chanting, there's no more inui chanting, and there's no more clapping of the hands. In front, when the mace is in front of us, when the deceased is in front of us, then we're allowed to express certain forms of grief. Once the person is buried, even though the rest of the year they may continue grieving, nonetheless, once it's buried, on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, and Purim, there is no more of those open expressions. Now, Ezeu Inui, what is Inui? Shakulan Einin Ke'achas, that they all answer or respond together. Inui comes from the word oneh, to answer, to declare. So here, when it's an Inui, it means shakulan ois ka'achas. They all chant together. Doesn't say what they chant exactly, but whatever they chant it together. Kina, what is a kina? Sha'achas medaberes, one speaks, the kulan oines hachareha, and everybody else responds to her. I mean, there's a leader. There's one woman who will lead and say something, and the other women will respond after that. Now, Shanamar, how do we know this distinction between kina and a inui? So we find a pasuk that says like this: "V'lameida b'nei seichem nehi," means teach your daughters nehi, which means lament. The ish re'usa kina, and a woman, her friend, will teach a kina. Meaning the word v'lameida at the beginning of the pasuk means and teach goes on the whole pasuk. Teach your daughters to lament, and the ish re'usa, and a woman, her friend, will teach her kina. Will teach her the kina lament. So you see that when it comes to a kina, there's a lameda, there's a teaching, which means there's one person leading and others following. So the inui, when they're all doing it together, apparently is not as grieving as much as one and then some, and one leading and others responding. And therefore there's that distinction that sometimes even when inui would be the inui chant would be permitted, the kina chant would not. Now, in order being that we've been discussing the laws of funerals and mourning, the Mishnah, the Tana of the Mishnah decided that we have to end on a positive note. Aval la'aseh lavai. But regarding the future, who Aimer, the verse states in the book of Yeshaya, the book of Isaiah, Bila ha'meves maves lanetzach. Death will be eliminated or swallowed up forever. Umach Hashem dimei al kol panim, and Hashem Elokim will erase tears from all faces. So in order to end on a positive note about what the future eventually is, when there'll be no more death, on that positive note, we want to end Mishnah Yismaid Katan. So we have Baruch Hashem completed Mishnah Yismaid Katan, and Amir Hashem starting Monday, we will start Mishnah Chagiga, which is the final Mesechta of Seder Moed. Okay, again, everyone, Piskatava, have a good Moed, and a good Shabbos, and a good Yontif.
Good Moed, good Shabbos, good Yontif.